Anime is... Okay, let's be real here, I don't need to explain anime to you, and if me being an anime fan is news to you, maybe take a closer look at the channel. Relax though, we're going to keep it on topic because, oh boy, there are a lot of anime tie-in games. Now people will tell you that all anime games are straight up bad, except for Dragon Ball for some reason. People always talk those ones up, never understood it personally, don't see the difference really between them and other series. Now I play a lot of these anime tie-ins, and as is always the case, I end up platinuming the vast majority of them. Coming up on the end of the year, I decided to look back on every anime game that I platinumed this year. Before we get into that though, we need to properly establish what an anime game actually is, at least for this video. To be as concise as possible, it is a game based on an anime series, not just a game that has an anime art style. Also, no games that would go on to later have anime adaptations made of them, so nothing like Persona 3 Reload or the Tsukihime remake. We're just looking at games that are clearly based on anime, and I know some clever clogs is going to be like, well, actually, Jujutsu Kaisen was a manga first. I know, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't be smart. Obviously though, I haven't played every anime game this year. Some I haven't seen the show for, so I have little interest for it. No, I didn't play the Dragon Ball game. I've never seen an episode, so I'll save you asking about it. Some of these also don't have a platinum technically, so where that happens, just replace it with all the trophies available. This is also not going to be in any special order, just whatever I feel like talking about first. So why don't we start with everyone's favourite series, Sword Art Online, yeah? This year we had Fractured Daydream, an online co-op focused game. It's kinda like Granblue Relink, but with SAO characters, and not as much content unfortunately. I do actually like the gameplay, and the single player story is fine, but bit fanfiction-y with all your favourite characters just being here, but honestly that's pretty much what I expected. The problems start to come in due to that lack of content. You see, the grind is insane. To get to play the extreme raids, which are seasonal event type things, you have to be player rank 90, which will take you upwards of 100 hours. More than 100 hours, it took me like 120. Likewise, the last tier of raid boss normally needs you to be player rank 85. Now this is insane, locking off basic content behind tens to hundreds of hours of a grind. That's mad, and will cause a lot of people to stop playing, which as I said, is a shame because I actually do like what's here and I hope the game gets updated and stuff. Platinum wise, as is the norm with SAO games, it is a massive grind. You need to reach player rank 100 as well as level 30 with each character and level 100 with one character. Thing is though, I don't have much to say on it. You get EXP for just clearing matches, so the strat is just play a lot. I think the raids take less time overall, but that means you'll be fighting the same few bosses for tens of hours, so I would just throw a co-op quest in for a bit of variety every so often. There are occasional events that give you more EXP for characters or player rank, so take advantage of that also helps, but that's not something you can effect yourself. It's either on or it's not. There are single player trophies for the story, most notable getting S rank in all stages. Not difficult, you just need to ensure you get 50,000 points, which is quite easy if you don't just rush the objective and actually explore the map. Exception to this is the boss fights, as sometimes the AI will just kill them faster than it takes you to get enough points. You just gotta really optimize what you're killing and getting points other ways, such as breaking off parts of a boss for a bonus. There are other miscellaneous online trophies, but to be honest, the grind takes so long that I really doubt you won't have them all by the time it's done. Overall, yeah, I like this game. It's one of the better ones in this video, certainly. I hope they continue to add content like more characters and just more stuff to do actually in the game, as opposed to just being in limited time events. And also making it so you don't need to grind as much to play with a lot of people would be good. Don't divide the player base anymore, that would be a good thing to do, I would say. I know they're adding at least a couple more characters, and I think they'll do more after that because of a survey recently, so hopefully they do keep the lights on a little while. I think enough time has passed to where we can say that Isekai Slime fell off, right? Like, releasing maybe 4 good episodes in 6 months is not a good average. But the meetings are important, yes, and so is paint drying, but that doesn't mean I want to watch it. Anyway, Slime had a game this year. Its first console one, Isekai Chronicles, and I think it's firmly in the meh tier. The plot goes through the first season and the first half of the second season, but there is also some new original story weaved into it with new characters, and for the most part this is all fine. Gameplay is split between this town management bit, which is completely undercooked and barely used. They just give you different stats. You don't need to like manage your population or anything, it's just for stats. The main gameplay is this 2D action game where you do different attacks based on which direction the stick is pointing. It gets the job done, but never really evolves beyond the beginning of the game other than unlocking new characters. The vast majority of the trophies as well are just unlocked by doing the story. In fact, the only two that I think you can miss are for using the hot spring 10 times, which is easy to do. You just use it after a certain amount of dungeons and it shows up on your map when it's available to be used, so it's hard to miss as well. And the only other one is the memory artifact, which is essentially just a boss rush. You just need to fight all the bosses again. Honestly, I think the game drags in points. They often drag out events longer than in the show, or have you fight the same boss like 4 times in a row. I wasn't the biggest fan of this one. Pretty much every aspect of this game needed a little bit longer in the oven, so to speak. Not the worst thing I've ever played, but I'm gonna forget about it in a month, let's say. Now this next game is kind of interesting, because despite the clear lack of budget, the characters don't even have models for God's sake. Mechanically, this is one of the ones I had the most fun with on this list. This is Mushoku Tensei Quest of Memories. Story-wise, it's a retelling of the second half of Season 1, but with a massive end of Season 2 spoiler right at the start for no reason. The game came out like a week after that episode happened in the show, so it is entirely possible that people got spoiled by this. Comment if you were. The game itself plays as a first-person dungeon crawler with turn-based combat. The only game I've played similar to this is Persona Q, which I am not a fan of. This game didn't change my feelings on this genre. I don't like mapping out the whole dungeon, which you need to do for a trophy, map every dungeon. Not exactly difficult, but it is annoying, as if you miss one single square, then you're running around like a lemon, or squinting at the map for the spot that's not filled in. To make matters worse, some of these aren't available until later on in the game, so you'll be running around trying to finish the map that you literally can't do. However, the combat is surprisingly competent. I'm not going to say it's particularly unique or innovative, because boy it's not, but I enjoyed building characters specific ways to have a half-decent team comp, which is needed for the post-game boss among other late-game enemies. I'm the type that will just fill the party with DPS characters unless you actively stop me, and this game actually forced me to use my noggin a little bit. Not a lot, the game is not a massive challenge or anything. There's also this mechanic where you swap to Roxy's party, where we learn all Roxy did when she was supposed to be looking for Rudeus was wait tables in towns the whole way. The minigame itself is whatever, but I do love the pixel art. It's like a nostalgia for a time before my time. Platinum-wise, it is a case of doing basically everything. All quests, explore all the areas 100%, and the aforementioned post-game boss, which is a quest, so it's actually included in that, but whatever. This was probably the game I was most surprised by. Like, yes, I know it's not going to be anyone's game of the year or anything, but considering this is a genre I actively dislike, which there's not many of, I was pleasantly surprised. We've arrived at the visual novels that I don't have much to say about part of the video. The tie-in waifu bait visual novel is maybe one of the most common anime game genres, except maybe shonen arena fighters, they're also really common. Kinda sucks when this happens to a series that could quite easily be made into a more fitting genre, and oh, would you look at that, there's a Konosuba one, brilliant. Originally released in Japan in 2020, this year in English, so it counts alright. Love for These Clothes of Desire is basically what I just mentioned, your typical visual novel, events featuring the girls in different outfits. This one does have a material gathering element to it, so at least that's something a bit different. However, this also ends up being the most annoying part of the game when it comes to the platinum. You see, this game is one of those annoying ones where there's like 10 endings, but you have to run through the whole game again with very little differences. In this case, making specific clothing and choosing specific characters to wear those clothes to change your, I want to be really clear, really short ending. The majority of the game is exactly the same no matter what you do, which isn't the end of the world, but the material gathering means you can't just keep pressing skip to quickly get all the endings you're missing. I used a guide because, of course I did. You thought I was going to waste even more time figuring out the requirements? Not a chance. The game itself is whatever, fun to have more shenanigans with the characters, but you're not missing much if you haven't played it. And much like that Konosuba one, perhaps even more suited to the romance visual novel being, you know, a romance anime, we have a pair of quintessential quintuplets games. The first of these is the less interesting one. The premise is that all the main characters get stuck on an island and have to survive for an amount of time. I forget how long it was. This means that, similar to the aforementioned Konosuba game, you have to gather materials and manage stats, as they all still need to study, damn it, with a section at the end dedicated to one of the characters based on your choices throughout the game. This time there's 14 whole endings, and all the same problems that I had with the Konosuba one are here too. Mainly that you need to do all the gathering and stat building part on every run instead of just being able to make the choices to get to the ending quickly. Yes, I used a guide again, not much more to say on it, very similar feelings to the Konosuba one. Nice to see the characters again, but not missing too much if you decide to skip. Now, the second of the quintessential quintuplets games is a lot more interesting. It removes the stat building and material gathering entirely and is instead a more straightforward visual novel. What makes it interesting though is that the start of this game begins at the point in the movie where the main guy chooses who he's going to go out with. Now, I'm not going to spoil the movie, but essentially this lets the people who angrily write paragraphs about why their waifu should have won instead of what actually happened can pick whoever they want, and it also remixes the wedding scene from the end of the movie based on who you choose. Other than that though, the story focuses on some months later, everyone goes on a trip, and all the routes are fairly different as the choice is right at the start of the game. This one has a whopping 16 endings for you to get, but removing the gathering portion makes this take a lot less time than the first game. As a standard visual novel, lot simpler to platinum. I once again used a guide to get all the endings. Honestly, really enjoyed seeing the different ways the movie could have ended. I know that's only the start of the visual novel, but I think it is the best part. And with that though, we're out of the visual novel section. Thank you for joining me. I'm sure we'll be back next year. If there's one genre of games that I haven't really played, it's the Souls-like, which isn't relevant, but if there's another genre of game I haven't played, it's the roguelike. As someone who typically likes long, story-focused games, a game that is pretty random and made more for quick repeat playthroughs rather than one continuous experience never really appealed to me. I mean, the only way you'd get me to play one of these is to tie it into a fantasy spin-off of an idol anime. Oh, would you look at that? This is Yohane the Parhelion: Sunshine in the Mirror, a tie-in game to the fantasy spin-off of Love Live Sunshine. Fun fact, last year this same series got a Metroidvania by Inti Creates that I also really liked. That's 2 for 2 on unexpected genres. Anyway, this game is a deck builder roguelike, and I got just a wee bit addicted to it. I had this moment after I'd done like 20 runs where I just went, oh, this is how they get you. This is how people get got on roguelikes. I get it now. Now for the platinum, there's only one trophy really worth mentioning, and it's for clearing every request once. These are kind of random, like each section rotates, so you might need to do a certain enemy quest, but you keep getting repeats of ones you've already done spawning. You can save scum to randomize new quests before turning in completed quests to hopefully get one that you haven't done before. Thankfully, there is a list online which is very helpful, and I appreciate the people that make guides for niche games like this. The randomness isn't the only thing that's difficult though. Some of the requests themselves are also quite difficult. Things like only having 5 cards requires very specific good builds and sets, as well as the luck to get them. Similar one charm is the same. Some are more specific, like using 20 cards in one turn and winning a battle without attacking. Again, you need specific builds. I'm not going to list everything here, but these requests basically need you to know what you're doing. This was one of the games on the list that I actually had the most fun with, as mad as that might seem going into this. It actually convinced me to play some of the more well-known roguelikes, so if nothing else, it got me into another genre that I can spend too much time on. So, success? You know what was missing from this video? That's right, gambling. Or gacha if you want to be more specific. A mechanic that a lot of people don't like, and for fair reasons. Personally, I'm unbothered by it. I'm pretty stingy with my money and have good self-control, so I'm not about to ruin my life for a JPEG. I know that sounds like an obvious thing, but you would be surprised. This Dan Mackey game, Battle Chronicle, launched for PlayStation this year, I think technically last year for mobile, but shut up, it still counts. Being a free-to-play gacha, the trophies will likely take months and months, and I actually spent most of the year attempting it, playing like 5 minutes a day. You need to hit rank 50, which is just a case of playing or skipping quests, so will take a while but not difficult. No, the big pain ones are first, for winning 100 Magic Stone Scramble games. This is a PvP mode, and has PvP in a gacha ever been balanced and fun? No, the answer is no. I couldn't win more than, I'm gonna say 10 games in a season before the game starts putting me against tryhard whales who easily win. Are you playing this mode for fun? What is wrong with you? Anyway, the other trophy you need is for spending 200 million of the game's currency, which is entirely too much. Weeb moment, it's the price of the Hestia knife in the show. Weeb moment over. Getting the money is just a case of doing quests and eventually you will get enough, but spending it actually is harder than you may think. The most expensive things in the game are rank 9 and 10 character abilities, which also require level up books. These two skills total 1 million per section, and each character has 4, so you can get 4 million per character like this essentially. There of course are other things in the games that cost in-game money, like leveling characters, hell, getting through the first 8 levels of skills. Now I'm gonna let you in on a little secret here. I haven't actually finished this one yet. I've only spent like 95 million, not even halfway, at time of writing. But I've got money ready to spend, I just need to farm books, and soon enough I'll have it done. Sorry for clickbaiting, I'm sure you will get over it. Now this next one definitely didn't get Shadow announced really late into the year, causing me to have to add parts to this script. Nope, definitely didn't happen. What type of game do you think that Death Note would get? Maybe some sort of mystery visual novel? I can't really think of much else. Though Light Yagami was in Jump Force, so maybe he learned how to throw hands from Goku. No, what the geniuses decided on though was Among Us. Saying that though, I actually did have a bit of fun with Death Note Killer Within. I mentioned Among Us because who wouldn't, but the differences in this game do actually make it not a complete clone. You have team leaders in L and Kira, and if they get got, that ends the game, which can lead to some strategy, particularly as you can switch who Kira is mid-game by passing the Death Note around. You can also only kill people once you know their name, which needs you to actually be next to them to steal their ID, so there's a bit of risk-reward there. This is to say, I don't hate the game for the actual game parts, but who on earth thought it was a good idea to return to lobby as soon as one person leaves the game? Even ignoring rage quitters, people have internet issues. It happens, right? I actually only managed to play a couple of games properly because of this, which is a real shame as I was actually having a good time. For the trophies though, you can do them all in a private lobby as long as you have a minimum of 4 players. So I enlisted a friend to help out and had multiple consoles myself, and we got it done within 10 hours. I love social deduction games, but personally, it's gotta be with friends. Playing with randoms is just not the same as playing with people you know and know how to manipulate. That makes me sound like a bad person. Only in the context of the game, would never do that in anything important. And despite the fact I don't think this is a one-to-one clone though, I would struggle to convince any of my friends, most of which are not weebs, to play this rather than just playing Among Us, which honestly ain't the end of the world. I like Among Us too. Apologies for not really talking about the trophies, but as I said, I just boosted them all, so there's nothing to really talk about. I absolutely would have done it legit if it weren't for the disconnect issue. Seriously, what were they thinking? That's gonna kill the game like that. My only theory is that it might be because if the disconnect is either L or Kira, the game is a lot harder or impossible to win, but just make another member of the team then. Surely that's not that difficult, right? Moving on though, why did they bother with this game? You can argue about the best and worst games on the list, and I am not joining that argument. This game though, Spy Family Operation Memories, is just nothing, like actual nothing. Let me run through a cycle of this game. You go to school, you're taught to characters to fill the bars for events, you play a minigame for money, eventually go to an area to take photos, repeat for a bit until the game lets you skip the minigame part, the only part that I could even somewhat consider a game, and still get the money as if you did it. Why would they do this? I'm not going to pretend the minigames were peak video game design or anything, but it's at least something, right? Nope, this is the only game on this list, and indeed one of the only games I think I've ever played where I legitimately questioned if anyone involved had any idea what they were doing. It is barely a video game. Sorry for a shorter segment, but I'd literally just described the game. It is 10-ish hours of just talking to people and taking pictures. It's not like you can't make a Spy Family game. I honestly think the mini-games are at least somewhat on track. Stick them in an actual story where you play as each character with different gameplay types. Maybe you can switch between them to solve puzzles, but in the game they don't know they're helping each other out. You know, like The Show? That was 5 minutes thinking of it for this script. I'm not happy with this game. And speaking of games I was not happy with, oh boy, this one was a game. It's not just a case of, oh, 3D Arena Fighter, how original. It's that it's clunky and bad. The Demon Slayer one, as an example, at least feels smooth to play. This game only has certain attacks do damage, which a few games have tried over the years, and it almost never works. In fact, I can't think of a single situation where it does work. It reminds me of only being able to get kills with specials in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and considering I'm the first person to mention that game this year, you can tell how that worked out for that game. Now, to Cursed Clash's credit, it has gotten better, with more characters having been added for free, and some paid, which is less good considering the state of the game, but positive, we're being positive, free characters. When it comes to the Platinum, the most grueling trophy is total level 400 in co-op mode. Believe it or not, this has actually been made a lot easier thanks to more characters being added. The average level has obviously decreased thanks to that. At launch though, there were only 16 characters, so you needed every character to be an average of level 25. It might be higher, because I'm not sure if level 1 actually counts towards the total, because that's what you start at. The EXP requirements shoot up the higher levels you get, adding hours and hours to the grind. Now, including the free and paid characters, there's 23 now, making the average level closer to 17, which drastically reduces the amount of farming. In case you were wondering, if only the free characters were added, it's average level 20. The best way to grind this is to do this Sukuna strat. Need some time to set up and level him up and get the right gear, but it is by far the fastest. Not very fun though. Other than that, you may also need some titles, but more than likely this won't be much of an issue. You can see the requirements in-game and pick the easy ones to farm. A second controller or second account may help with this as well. I do wonder where they went wrong with this game. Bandai Namco have done bloody loads of shonen arena fighters, so I don't see why this game is so noticeably worse than say the My Hero Academia one or the Legions of Dragon Ball ones. It's a modern show that people like, not me but other people. Really should have been better and really disappointing for the fans. Me though, I just think it's funny that the game matches the quality of the show. Oh, hey, that was a joke. That was a joke. Even I think the show deserved better. Please don't come for me in the comments. And that is every single anime tie-in game platinum that I got in the past year. How many of these do you have or have even played? Maybe some of these you don't even know about. You're gonna go watch some anime now, I don't know. Let me know all that in the comments, and while you're down there, press like on it to help me out, and why not subscribe? It's free and gives you easy access to all my videos, both old and new. A lot of the platinums for these games ended up being easy enough to where there wasn't a lot to talk about, so I just ended up talking about the games themselves. Hope that's fine. If not, next time I'll just list all the trophies. Cool? Thank you for watching. For now though, I'm off. Hunt them trophies. And I'll see you next time.